only constant there is in this life is change. There's nothing that stays the same. Absolutely nothing. Change as a permanent feature of our existence, if rejected, if resisted, will only increase your misery and suffering. It's when you begin to accept the fact that you are going to change in a changing environment and world that it makes it easier to adapt. Change is to become different, to transform, to revise, to make different, to refashion, to rework, to modify, to remake, to remodel, to revamp, to revise, to shift. Lots of change going on around us, change going on in industry, with energy, with automobiles. The key is whether or not you have the capacity to adapt. And you want to be able to adapt. Like when I adapt to the changes that I need to make in my body in order to achieve success in sport, I have to go through a process that is not comfortable. You know, like the monotony of doing rotation drills or lifting until it burns, or maybe runners who run up hills and their legs burn. Okay, that's not necessarily comfortable, but you can achieve a certain level of maturity in your state of being and health that makes you more fit to cope with change, and ultimately that's what defines success. Now, Hans Selye in 1936, he was an endocrinologist, a fellow that focuses on glandular function like the adrenals or the hypothalamus and the thyroid. He thought that stress is part of a change that goes on inside the body, but inside the body there is what we call a homeostasis. That's what maintains balance. But as soon as something changes that and you have to react, the alarm bells go off, and this is the first stage that he called the alarm stage, which is cool. You get that fight or flight. That actually allows us to respond to danger and run away or move towards an event or situation that is maybe beneficial to us. The resistance stage, you can see over this time slope going down, this is where we have the capacity to change our state and improve our mental and emotional capacity so that we can cope with change as it's coming with us. But prolonged stress, if unattended, if ignored, if denied, like for example, people have all kinds of emotional and mental stress. They can't cope with an event that's happened, and they don't do anything to change their state. They just stay at home and cry. Or they go into a terrible state of depression and they can't snap out of it. They don't have the will or the motivation. They can evolve into a state of exhaustion. And the only one that can snap them out of that usually is themselves, because no amount of help from the outside, no practitioner, no healer, no friend, no family, no one can convince them otherwise. And that's been shown to be associated with a lack of preparation inside the body. You weren't prepared for this terrible thing that happened. You somehow thought that living in your bubble it would never happen. But it did happen, and it happens every second. I realized by studying emotions as a scientist that emotions are not causes. They're only effects. They're consequences of the brain's ciphering reality. And so I've learned not to trust my emotions and rely on them as a source of truth. I experience my emotion, but I don't use my emotion as a source of truth. I use reality and matter and facts. That's what I base my sense of knowledge on. So I can always go to that, no matter how bad it is, and then find a way to get out of that situation mentally or emotionally so that I can climb out of my own personal gutter and then still find the will to live and move on in spite of, say, the parent loss, or in spite of someone that you love has been hurt or killed or whatever it is. I think this is absolutely critical because I've seen so many of my friends and personal family members lose the capacity to deal with reality, which has change built into it. Somehow their expectations were incorrect. They somehow thought that things were always going to be the same. Like that husband is always going to be there, and one day he disappears. Or vice versa. One day he comes home and his spouse is gone. What happened? I think we have to understand the nature of change as a fundamental aspect of reality. It's not stress that kills us, it's our reaction to it. And if you have the knowledge, you have the skill set, if you have the emotional poise and control, if you are disciplined, if you have gone through enough of life to get the point that change is inevitable, instead of having expectations that are based on more of a childlike naivety. We need to understand the importance of education. So these are the areas that I think are absolutely crucial and essential to understand as a human being. In particular, health, which is not the absence of disease only, it's the presence of function. In my field, I have learned how to teach people how to retain function as they age. The function of your mind and the function of your body is what defines health and functional medicine. So we use body composition now, and then we tie that with a dietary analysis, and we want whole, real, clean food. All the junk removed, all the fast food removed, which is the original diet of humanity. Our food supply has been taken over by giant food corporations. It's been hacked. And so this is what we're raising our kids on. And part of the reason that we're not prepared to adapt to change is because we're being bled out by consuming refined, processed, dead food. High in sugar, high in flour, instead of real, high-quality plants and animals. It's really simple, but for a lot of people it's a terrible struggle to stay away from the sweets, to stay away from the refined foods. They have a terrible struggle with this, and this is what is causing self-sabotage and worsening their potential to deal with stress. Because if you're weaker as you get older, you're not going to be able to cope with the stress. Body surfing came long before board surfing. That was the first kind of surfing where your actual body is the board. And it's all about timing. But the thing I want to leave you with is this. I learned how to respect the wave. So the wave is a kind of a powerful thing that's coming at you when you're out there bobbing up and down with your head just above the water. That's what you're waiting for, these waves to come in. This is what happens. You learn to respect the wave and the water. It's very powerful. It'll wipe you out and crush you. You cannot take it on. And this is what it's like, I think, with a lot of situations in life. If you try and take the stress or the change that's coming at you on by yourself, you're going to fail. You're going to lose. It's too big. So what you do in body surfing is you learn either to ride the wave, like this fellow's doing. He's riding the wave. He's going with the wave. He's favorable to the movement. Or if you don't want to take the wave, you go underneath the wave. That's how you don't take the wave. That's how you save yourself. When it's coming at you, this giant wave, it's too big, or maybe your timing's off, you go underneath the wave and you're safe. You're not crushed and wiped out. So you learn how to ride the wave. You don't stand up against the wave. So don't stand up against stress. That is inevitable, that is constant, that is absolute. Learn how to embrace it. And Heraclitus also encapsulated this simple term, go with the flow. Right? And that's my message for you today. Thank you very much.